Yeah, so it's, because I do want it to be interactive. I want not only your feedback, on yourself, but then your feedback on your classmates, because I think that it's important to know how other people see you. And so, who knows what archetype is? You should all know. I sent you the list there, okay? And I wanted you to know how I got interested in them. When I was first acting and I went to LA, I had a manager and he'd say, what are the actresses you identify with or whatever. And that was, I was clueless. I mean, I thought, well, I really like Deborah Winger, but I didn't know why or what the correlation was or how that affected me. And then I know I've told a lot of you this story, but bear with me because some of you have not heard it. My manager, when I first went to LA, was John Crosby, who now manages Shia LaBeouf. And I had gotten a job on Night Court. And it was, the little picture I had on Facebook, it was me seducing John Larroquette. And I was really, really excited about that because I'd only been in LA 5 months. So that was pretty amazing. That the casting director, she looked at my resume and she was very impressed that I'd only been there 5 months. She said in 5 years, this would, make sense, but not 5 months. Anyway, I got the job and I did it. And so when I got my little tape from the deal, I went in and I showed John Crosby, and he was sitting behind me. We had this big VHS tape. And I was sitting there and I turned around and I looked at him thinking he was going to be all happy. And his face was bright red. And I'm sure I saw smoke coming out of his ears. And he said, okay, well, that's good, that's nice. I don't want you to show that to anyone ever again. And at the time, this was a long time ago, but Night Court was one of the top 3 shows in the country. And I had it was a guest starring role with one of the stars. And I was just flabbergasted, and I said, why? And he said, I told you when I signed you, I don't want you to do anything that has anything to do with sex. And I thought, okay, I had thought he was talking about porn or something. and I said, John, do you know what I did in January? He said, well, you did that movie with Kathleen Turner and you did that John Hughes film. I said, do you know what my costume was? And he said, no. I said, I was in bra and underwear. I was in bed with men who weren't my husband. So I said, if you don't want me to do these roles, then maybe you shouldn't send me out for these parts. But that just really opened up a whole nasty can of worms, because if I wasn't going to do those were clearly seductress type roles, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't, and of course, we live in a society that tells a woman, if you're beautiful and sexy, then that's enough. And well, yeah, I mean, it's enough if you just want someone to buy you a meal, or it's not enough. And then just figuring out. What my place was, how I was going to create my place. I didn't know how I was going to make all of that happen. And so I thought, well, I'll show them, I'll write. So that's how I started writing screenplays. And then one of the other reasons that I became so familiar with archetypes was because of the writing. Because how I say to you guys all the time, story is character and character story. So if you know your character, you're going to know the story. You can't separate them. You absolutely cannot. You can't tell me about this amazing woman who's try to describe the Erin Brockovich character or the story, but make Erin Brockovich a waif. It doesn't work. We don't have a story, because she's a crusader. So you don't just have to have one. They can be layered. And the other thing that's really cool about archetypes is they can evolve. So you might start one place, and I think a really great example of an evolving archetype is Walter White in Breaking Bad, my favorite show. Because he started off as this. I think most of us, if you watch the first show, his primary archetype was a professor. He was a professor at school and kind of didn't really stand up for himself a whole lot, but was really into numbers and figures and just very cerebral. And then, of course, as the show continued. There were times where he was still a professor, but he was also very much, a bad boy. And in an outlaw, you know? So, hi Maxine, come on in. Okay, and that's really important because, you know, we talk about character arc. You know, you start one place, you go through these trials and tribulations, and something happens, and then you end up someplace else. So archetypes can change, and so and which is fantastic. That's also really empowering for you as actors to be able to say, oh, you know, this is. Let's say you have a main role in something. I think it's really important to look at your character's journey. You know, they should change. They need to change. You don't want them to stay the same. You know, because they go through this journey for a reason. So I think that that's really important. Okay, so you're going to write down your name, your primary archetype, a secondary archetype if you can think of one, and this is really important. When we did this last year, there was a little bit of confusion between actors, similar actors to you, and similar characters. So I made the distinction here. Actors would be actual people with names, like Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie, Meryl Streep, Will Smith, Lisa Kudrow, Antonio Banderas, Susan Lucci, I had a fun Marilyn Monroe. Those are people, okay? So you want to think of people that you were similar to. You know, people say, oh, you remind me of whoever. Oh, you know, you're so much like that person. Or maybe you see somebody and you see bits of yourself in the way they, you know, behave or the way they look. Because that's the other thing too. It's not just a look. A look is that's the first thing people see. But it is also the way they walk, the way they talk, their essence. You know, so just because a person looks one way, if they behave completely differently, then that's going to put them in a different category of archetype. Okay, so and then similar characters, those are the actual characters, you know, from film, TV, cinema, you know, even books. Scarlett O'Hara, Spider-Man, Nurse Ratched, Flo in the Progressive commercials, again, Walter White. So think of, you know, the characters. I mean, think of how often you've gone to the movie and you think, oh, I could have done that. I could have done that better. You know, just because there's something about the way you see the world or your life experience that you know would lend to you giving a better performance. All right, Nathan, did you fill yours out? Are you doing it?
No, I'm doing it here.
Okay. Does everyone have one of these packets? Did you get one, Maxine? Everyone? Yeah? Okay.
I gave you that.
Okay, yeah, Nathan, I want you to fill yours out too. All right, and then this was really fun too. 2 adjectives that describe yourself on the bottom here. Okay, so if people say that, yeah, people say, oh, you're funny, or you're sexy, or you're cute, or you're shy. You know, what were the 2 words when people are describing you? What do they say? No, standoffish. I used to hear aloof all the time, and I thought, what the hell? I'm not aloof, but I am. Yeah, so it's important to know that. So just whatever those 2 words, when people say, oh, you know, that cricket, she's a little outrageous, or
cricket. Yeah.
Okay, because that's important too. All right, and then the other thing, and I didn't write this on the agenda, but I want you to do it, on the back of your page, your information sheet for you, okay, I want you to write, you know, for those of you who have been auditioning, even if whether it's plays, TV, film, commercials, whatever you have been auditioning for, write the last, you know, 3, 4 archetypes that you think they have been. Okay, and this is how we discovered, you know, with Rhonda last year that there was just a problem with how she saw herself and how her agent saw her and how the world was going to see her, because, you know, she kept writing down mom, 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 and yet when she did her monologue on that not that Rhonda couldn't be a great mom, I'm sure she could, but I think if you're an advertiser and you're going to, you know, pay a lot of money to get people to sell your products, I don't know that most mothers in America would look at her and go, oh yeah, I got a lot in common with her. No, they wouldn't. Yeah, that's a really great way to be able to answer, how your agent is seeing you. And here's the other thing about these roles. Oh, and also for those of you who don't, I was trying to find the most succinct definition of an archetype, and I think I found it, and it's a typical example of a certain person or thing. That's it. It's just a typical, it's an example. Yeah, so does anyone have any questions so far?
The last thing, the things on the back is the things you've gone out for.
Yeah, auditions that you've had, whether it's just through yourself or your agent, somebody saying, okay, you're gonna go read for, heck, I don't know, was it Nora in the Glass Menagerie? Wait, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Oh, and the other thing too, the ones, I sent you all the chart. Did anyone not get the chart of the archetype? Have you all got one? Okay. That's sort of been an evolving, sort of a work in progress, and I actually, I read a lot. I'm exposed to a lot of different thoughts and ideas, and so there's 16 there, 8 for men, 8 for women, but there's of course is an overlap. So if you look at, there's a correlation. If a man is a chief, then the female, correlation would be a boss. Swashbuckler for men, crusader for women, charmer for men, seductors for women. So it goes on down the thing. So if you get up here and you decide if you're a woman, but you call yourself a law, so that's perfectly valid. I mean, we don't have to. I don't discriminate against genders. But the other thing is, even though, bye Cynthia, thanks again. Even though I've only, we're going to talk about 16 here today, there are so many others. And so if you find yourself coming up with a word that's not on the list, that's perfectly fine. It is, they're just called different things. Sometimes they can be under the umbrella of a certain thing. Believe it or not, all of the 16 archetypes I sent you are all under the heading of hero and heroine archetype. Okay, so those are often people who if you're going to have a lead in something, it would be one of these. But it doesn't mean that you can't also be, a guest star or a day player with one of those. Okay, so this is what I want to do now that you all have your forms. Is everyone fill out their form? The little deal? Okay. What? Do you have a question, Ashley? No?
No, I
Yes.
back to you said to write what we normally audition for, what
Yeah.
type of role.
Yeah, what kind of archetype, what role, was it?
Okay.
Yes. Okay, and just, I think it's really important, because Dallas is mostly a commercial/industrial market, it will serve you well to be able to do a young mom nurturer archetype. Because when you think about commercials, and I don't think this has changed a whole lot. It has. In the past 20 years, I would venture to guess that for women, you're probably having more auditions for the corporate girl, the more someone who works in an office. So that archetype would probably be, a boss, that kind of thing, because women have, have more jobs in the workforce. But for commercials, there probably isn't a great need for a lot of waves. That would be more in film and TV. Calvin,
Sorry.
you just missed all the good stuff.
I know.
Well, have a seat, baby.
Gosh, that was the best thing that I've ever heard, the
Oh my
best
God.
advice ever. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Gosh, I hope Nathan got it recorded. Okay, because I know years ago someone said, in fact, and this is interesting, when I lived in Dallas, when I was auditioning, acting 20 some years ago, I worked a lot in commercials. I did a lot of young mom stuff. I did even the corporate stuff. I did a bunch of Radio Shack stuff. And then when I went to LA, I couldn't book a commercial to save my life. And the reason was because there were so many more people who looked more like a mom or more like a corporate CEO. Or when it came to the glamour stuff, they would go to the models. And so I couldn't book a commercial. I quit trying, and I just did film and TV. But again, that's if I had moved to LA, just hell bent on just doing commercials, it would have been difficult. And so the same thing. I look here, I don't know why, but do y'all know Billy Blair? Does anyone know Billy Blair?
Oh, wait, no.
Billy, he was in class a few years ago. He's a lot of tattoos. He was in Machete and the Machete remake, and he's got this beard that comes down and is like braided, and Billy looks like a badass.
Is he bald?
No, he's got kind of long, dark hair. He's a musician.
Okay.
And in fact, I saw a posting on Facebook, and he was naked, but he had his guitar in front of him. I thought, oh my. But I can't imagine, if Billy has booked commercials in Dallas, few and far between. He's not going to do Young Dad. He's not going to do Barbecue Joe or Barbecue Bob. The guy in the back with the flipping the burgers. He's not going to do the athlete, because that's the other thing. There's a lot of athletic stuff, a lot of nutrition, food, that kind of thing. So he would probably get depressed if he thought, man, I really want to make commercials. Someone needs to sit him down and say, Cricket, we have this talk with your red hair. That's what you don't know. Is it gone?
It's almost gone.
It's almost gone. Cricket had this bright red braid coming out. And how many years did you have it?
36 years.
36 years. But she is sacrificing that red braid because she knows she's not going to be able to do, any commercial work. I mean, it would, not any, but it would really, really limit you.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. So having said that, what I want to do next is, again, I didn't want to go through and read the whole archetype chart. You can do that on your own time. Individually, I want you guys to come up. This is going to be the process. One at a time. Do not tell us your archetype that you picked. You're going to do your commercial or your monologue, and then after the class watches you do your monologue, they are going to fill out the form on you. So essentially, every actor, however many people are in this room, you're going to have a form from them. You need to keep them and take them home. And then we're just going to, quickly go through and read how everyone else sees you, okay? And then we're going to compare it to how you see yourself. And I think it's going to be fantastic if you're on the same page. And if you're not, then it'll give you something to think about. And we actually had that happen, in addition to Rhonda, it was, I know a lot of you know Greg Connors. He was way off the mark last year. He saw himself, I think, as a lost soul, and every girl who's ever laid eyes on him was like, oh, no, I don't think so. It very much charmer, bad boy, okay? But I think that was helpful for him to know that, that we don't see you as a lost soul at all. All right, so get over it. Okay, so who would like to go first? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right, Jane. You have to leave early, don't you?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. And I'm going to sit there, and then you can. Yeah, let's keep 2 chairs up here. So if you want to stand, fine. If you want to sit, stand, that's fine. Whatever. And then
I'm under the weather, so if you can't understand my words.